Hi everybody, today I'm talking with Janet Stott. Janet Stott from Christchurch. Janet and her partner Marti are a Christchurch couple, and they began researching the connection between nutrition and health a few years ago. And as a result, they started to follow a ketogenic diet and then have subsequently moved on to a carnivore diet. So today, Janet's going to talk to us a little bit about her journey, her interest in ancestral health, some wonderful products that she's made in the company she set up, and she's also going to talk a little bit about regenerative farming. So over to you, Janet.
Oh, thanks, Susan. My first disclaimer is I'm not an expert at anything. I very much follow my gut, and so our little company, Homegrown Primal, we launched it in December, and in January, a friend of mine who is an e-commerce expert created our Shopify site. And since then, it's been a really, really interesting learning curve, because what I wanted to do first of all was to get really well and have optimal nutrition. And now I've sort of down the rabbit hole of social media and Instagramming and you know, with all the enthusiasm that I have for getting this product up and running, we thought initially we'd just start with just a small batch of organs, glandulars they call them, primarily for our own health. And then it kind of has taken off, and we've reordered our base product, and so we're on to our second round of liver and organ mix and the brain that we use. And the feedback that we've had so far has been amazing. People are like, I can't believe how good I feel. In fact, my accountant, who I love dearly, he's been living with a ketogenic diet for a number of years, and he said, I can't believe what did you put in that stuff? I feel so amazing after like 10 days of just on our boost, which is liver. He's like, oh my goodness, I feel so different, and I feel happy. Like I've got this really underlying feeling of happiness in my body, and I feel like that too. I've got an underlying joy, and I think that's part of the whole nutritional platform that tapping into. When you're eating well, the body starts to have this lovely resonance to it, that it's joyful and nothing seems to be a problem, you know.
A real sense of well-being. Can you tell us a little bit about why you chose organ meats, because they're so nutritionally dense? Do you want to go into that a little bit?
So yeah, sure. We starting to be living on the carnivore diet. The carnivore way of eating is not really a diet, it's really a lifestyle. We dived into a lot of other nutritional experts who were doing the same thing. And really we've been guided by the likes of Paul Saladino, who is an American MD, who's totally into nose to tail nutrition. And so uncovering all that stuff, realizing that the organs are super dense with nutrition, and just eating the muscle meat, the muscle meat's really good, but eating nose to tail like they did ancestrally is far, far superior, because you're getting, I don't know, from living in eating plants, you have to eat a whole lot of bulk to get the nutrition. Whereas if you're going to eat nose to tail and you're targeting your nutrition, you don't have to eat so much, you know.
You're getting all those micronutrients that you need. Like liver basically has every micronutrient that we need, and it even has, small amounts of vitamin C as well. So we don't really need to be supplementing anything else.
I don't supplement anything. And I've been in the fitness industry my whole life, my whole adult life, and always really keen on getting optimal nutrition. And so I've always taken a vitamin and mineral supplement, and I don't anymore, because I know that the organ meats come from a mammal, and I'm a mammal, so we've got the same operating system. So my body, when I feed it well, it doesn't have to file through all this bulk to get what it needs for optimal nutrition. It's just instantly there. So with liver, we're getting B12 and folate and iron and B6 and copper and all those, all the little trace elements that are really essential, and then they're all in the right amount.
And I think that's what's really important, because one of the issues we have with kind of synthetic supplement manufacture is who decides what quantities of what actual ingredient is to go into it. And then we have all these issues like MTHFR and all these other genetic issues where people are not actually able to absorb the particular form of the nutrient.
And if you imagine that, we were walking on the savannah and the plains a million years ago, eating our working together as a tribe and killing and eating the whole animal. Nothing was wasted. And these days, I remember my grandmother cooking organs, but in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we've only been organs have been vilified, and we go to the supermarket and get our beautiful fillet steak and our prime cuts, and the rest of the animal. And that's what I found out. We to find liver and heart and kidneys and maybe even thymus, which is the sweetbread, at the butcher, you just can't. It's in the pet food department. And New Zealand exports, it's the organ meat exports is the 5th biggest export in New Zealand. So it's going to pet food overseas, and it's also going into glandular supplements, but it's not available to us. And so I'm re-educating the fact that I actually need nose-to-tail nutrition so that I've got enough energy, my body's healthy. Coming back to ancestral eating, yeah.
And I know I eat a lot of liver and organs, and I can get it from the butcher and occasionally from the supermarket, but you do have to really try and pick your times. And a lot of people don't like the flavour. We grew up eating liver and heart and kidney, so it's sort of not unusual. But if you're not used to it and you feel like it's got a different texture and a different kind of flavour, so having a New Zealand grass-fed, totally organic product made in New Zealand, I think is wonderful.
Totally organic. We source and I know that our farmers and the way we farm, I'm saying we as the farming industry, farming very healthy. We've got a really high stringent testing system once the animals are slaughtered. So the organs that we get are absolutely prime organs. They're not from organic farms.
Okay, that was my misunderstanding.
No, that's okay. I think in my ideal world, that's where we're moving to, and that's where the conversation around regenerative farming can go to, because if our animals are from regenerative agriculture and they're not drenched and the pasture isn't fertilized, then that's the next stage for our nutrition, and that's the next stage for Homegrown Primal. But at this stage, being a fledgling company, we're just learning the ropes, really. It still doesn't discredit the fact that the product is optimal. It's not a suboptimal product. It's the best of the best, and everything's tested. Yeah.
I hope a few people will go and check you out and check out your website.
You want me to show you? I've got them here. You're familiar with this one. So this is the liver capsule.
Yes.
It's South Island beef, made here in Christchurch. This one here is fermented trachea. So this is our collagen product, and it's type 2 collagen. So it's not about skin and hair and nails, although people who've been taking this are really surprised at how fast their nails are growing. This is about the internal fascial highway inside the body. So it goes, according to research, fermented trachea goes straight into the epithelium tissues in the gut. So if you want to recover from gut issues, this is a really good one to take because it's very protective. And the fascial tissue in the body is the fine tissue that wraps each muscle together. It also directs to ligaments and tendons and joints, and so it's all over internal tonic, really. That I take that every day. And we've only got 4 products at the moment. So this is our organ mix, and I called it Thrive because I just, you know, I didn't really want it to hit the market with this is an offal mix. This is Thrive. It's got heart and liver and kidney, and it's also got pancreas and spleen in it. So all those organs have got specific roles in the body. The heart has CoQ10. The kidneys are full of, I can't think of them right now, but all those organs are really good for us. Pancreas is responsible for insulin release, production, and the spleen helps with immunity. So I'm sure you could probably speak into the other organs they're all really important. Yeah. And I think what you said earlier about they're coming in the right quantities in a way that our body recognizes. So it's the operating system that our body is tuned into and understands. And, you know, we've got a strong plant-based trend at the moment. And, you know, you and I talked about this a bit earlier. I totally understand and can relate to how people feel. They feel, you know, they're concerned about animal welfare, they're concerned about the environment. But I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the nutritional value of plants. So they do have some nutritional value, but the bioavailability is quite low in a lot of cases. And they have a lot of toxins and anti-nutrients that slow down absorption. And then, you know, we're in an environment now where we've got so many gut issues, and, you know, almost everybody I talk to has a digestive complaints and bloating and things like that. And I do wonder how much the emphasis on plant foods and moving away from, you know, the whole animal food diet is influencing that. It started with gluten, and then so there was awareness around gluten and how gluten can irritate the gut. And then Dr. Gundry wrote his Plant Paradox book, which is sort of slammed across social media. And he talks about lectins, and they're found in grains and pulses, and how lectins create the leaky gut as well. I'm not a scientist, so I don't know the whole process. And then there are, I know our body's got its own, it creates its own antioxidant, which is called glutathione. Glutathione. Yeah. So there's the antioxidant plants that are really pushed actually create an irritant reaction. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it created an irritant reaction in our body, and our body creates the antioxidant. Correct. It's called a hermetic stress. A hermetic, yeah. And I don't know whether hermetics is a good thing or a bad thing, and you can get hermetic responses to exercise, so that the body changes and creates its equilibrium at a different level. I think it's sort of dose related, really, you know, and then there's an individual component to that as well. So my thought was, instead of blasting my gut with plant toxins, and they come in such a variety, I'm not going to have any plants at all and see how I go. So I'm nearly 18 months into a plant-free diet. My gut feels really happy. I used to, in the mornings before I even went ketogenic, I was rushing to the toilet with a really upset stomach, and I thought it was coffee, but it probably was toast or a cereal that I was having, because I was very much into healthy foods, having, you know, my grains in the morning. And I don't get that anymore. Never ever get any rush to the loo. I feel so much more vital now that my body isn't trying to process a whole lot of bulk. So, and I know now that if I'm eating nose to tail, I've got a great nutritional platform to work from, and I feel like I don't need any other nutrition than what I'm giving my body right now.
And there's lots, and there are a lot of similar stories out there.
Yeah.
People are finding it very healing, sort of getting back to their ancestral way of eating.
I think just moving away from the vilifying organs and animal food to actually honouring the animal and knowing that they are really part of our tribal existence. We need them as much as they need us.
And I think we do need them. I think that's very important. And that brings us on to about regenerative farming and, biodiversity and using the animals to help regenerate the soil and sequester carbon and, you know. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? You've done a wee bit of research into that. It's not really, I don't really know an awful lot about it. Yeah. I did post a really lovely video on my Facebook page yesterday that I had watched that literally brought tears to my eyes, because it's just so wonderful to see so many people who love the planet we live on working so hard to find a way of feeding us while taking care of animals and taking care of the land, and they call themselves land managers rather than animal farmers.
I think from what I understand, it's not about the animal as such, it's about the soil and the sponge underneath the layer of plant growth, and the soil's ability to hold moisture. So I've been kind of involved with farming for most of my life and discovered that I really was interested in organic farming and multi-layered, like, what do they call it, a herbal lay, way back in the 70s, I think. So I went to the organic farming conference here in Christchurch in February and learned so much about regenerative farming. And I know that there's a number of New Zealand farmers that are taking on the regenerative agricultural framework. And it was started off by a man who was South African called Alan Savory. He started his own institute, and he's done a TED talk. I don't know, maybe we could find it and link it to this podcast. But this TED talk is about, he was really passionate about the desertification of the world and why we were losing all our beautiful prairie land to deserts. And he looked back historically at how the herds of bison traveled, or the herds of ruminant animals traveled across the prairie, and they travel in big groups, like hundreds of animals, thousands of animals traveling together. And what happens with that is that they're densely populated, and they manure and they trample, and then they leave. And what happens to the soil is it's trampled, it's fertilized, and the top part of with herding animals, they prune rather than graze it right down to soil level. So the grass actually sits over while the animals move on. So we've got a layer of dead grass that they call it terminated grass in the regenerative agricultural guys. That's what they say. They terminate the grass and they roll it. So they don't till it, they roll it, and then they and I don't know whether you've ever had a piece of lawn that you haven't mowed and it's tipped over, and then the new growth starts coming through. So that's the natural cycle. We don't need to eat the grass right down to the soil. We leave it stalky, and the animals prune it as they walk along and flatten it down, and then underneath comes the new growth. And the dead grass creates almost like a water sponge. And if this happens year after year after year, we create this incredible ability to hold moisture. So instead of when it rains and runs off and the top soil runs off, we now have this ability to hold the water. And so if you've got water in your top part of your soil, then the vegetation is going to grow. And you've also got microbes and all sorts of other really good organisms in that area to keep the grass and the environment healthy and the life cycle happening. Again, I'm not an expert. This is what I've heard, what I'm reading and listening to. I posted on my Facebook page, I posted yesterday a podcast with Joe Rogan and Joel Salatin, who is, I think he's like a third generation regen farmer in the States. And his farm is called Polyface Farm. Now, this man talks about the land as a benevolent lover. It's just so beautiful to hear how he tends the land like he would tend a lover. So he uses no fertilizers or pesticides, and everything's, he loves the life cycle that he's created, and his animals are happy, and it just brings tears to my eyes like it did you.
Yeah. Well, it does, because we're all kind of conservationists at heart, really, and we all want what's best for the planet. But we still have to feed people, and human health is really important as well. So we need to be able to eat in a sustainable way that ensures that everybody is healthy.
And we are part of the life cycle. We are part of the life and death. And if we can, honor the animal that feeds us, then it's almost like paying it forward. We're giving back to the land. We're healthy. We're not relying on the wellness, the health system, or the non-wellness system to support us with drugs and all the other stuff that we're used to reaching to straight away when we're not well.
And I think COVID has been very interesting, hasn't it? Because it has really highlighted on an international scale the issues around the increasing chronic disease around the world, the obesity, the diabetes, which then lead on to the heart disease and Alzheimer's and cancers. And
they're all modern diseases.
They're all diseases of civilization, they call them. And I think you and I are both really passionate about trying to find ways to reverse that and get people to think about.
Think about. I think Paul Saladino posted this morning that there was it was an M&M packet, and it had emotional support lollies on the packet with a yellow COVID sticker on top of it. And it was like, this is what's happening. People are reaching for their emotional food hit and staying unwell.
Well, I mean, that's challenging in itself, isn't it? And, I was talking to I have some US veteran clients that I was talking to yesterday, and we were exactly talking about that and the connection, how food becomes our emotional support system. It's our stress release, and everybody acknowledges, I eat when I'm stressed. And I think finding a way of being able to recognize when you're doing that, and then looking for some alternatives. And I always talk about being less bad.
I like we talk about beast. We talk about feast, beast, and fast. So we eat twice a day. So we have an eating window that starts usually about 2:00 in the afternoon and finishes, 6:00 or 7:00 at night. And the theory is beasting is like they used to do on the plains. They used to hunt. So you'd get up and you'd go hunting. So instead of reaching for a cup of coffee and a muffin in the morning because you're feeling a little upset, go and do some beasting. Like, go and do a walk, put some music in your ears and get outside without eating. And then start with your eating window once you've done your exercise. Exercise is the most amazing panacea for a lot of ills.
And especially for mental kind of stress, that mental emotional stress, that dopamine trigger. It's
get outside, get some sun, get some wind or some rain or whatever. Just get out into the elements, and then come home and eat something that's good for you. So whether that's some eggs and bacon, we bought a couple of hoggets and put them in the freezer a couple of weeks ago. So I've been cooking roasts and then having it cold. So that's been really cool. Or some salmon, some greasy fish, and then fast. And in the fasting window, there's time for the body to recover, to get the nutrients out of the food, for you to, so food doesn't become like a preoccupation. It used to be for me. I was always going, oh, when am I going to get my next muffin or my next croissant, because I've got a bit of a weakness for French pastry.
Well, and I think that kind of food triggers the desire for more of that food. It affects our blood sugars quite badly. So our blood sugars go up, and then we have a big drop in blood sugar, and so then we're like, oh, I need to eat again because
you're like this.
Yeah. And it's being talked about a bit more now, like in the last few years, but probably for the last 15 years I've been banging on about insulin all the time. Finally it's sort of reaching sort of more mainstream, but it's not really the blood sugar that's so much the problem. It's what the insulin is doing, and that we become really insulin resistant over time with all those big blood sugar spikes. And then that insulin then goes on, to damage our arteries, and gets involved in the process of all these other chronic diseases that we have. So, but, we do all, you eat something like that, you eat a nice croissant and you sit there and think, I could easily have another one, and you're not even hungry. It's like, it's just your brain.
It's the opiate response that the brain has when it eats any kind of carbohydrate. And I've been sort of playing around with having a little bit of fruit. We've got a beautiful heirloom apple tree in the garden of this house, and every now and then I'll just have, I can't eat a whole apple, but I'll have a little bit, and it's nice, and it's organic and it hasn't been sprayed, and I know that being fat adapted is another conversation, but knowing that I can use insulin for maybe a little bit of a not insulin, glucose for a little bit of a
energy boost.
An energy boost. And know that my body flips right back into using the ketones as fuel in my fat and protein diet rather than craving the next sugar hit.
Yeah. And I think that, I don't necessarily think everyone in the world needs to be carnivore. I think people can certainly eat fruit and vegetables and plant foods. But I think getting back to eating more seasonally, like when your apples are ripe, well, then you can enjoy your apples, but you're not eating them all year round, out of season, imported. And
I always look at the carbon footprint of my food. If I can get it local, I will. But I won't buy anything that's come long distances.
Well, I think that's really good. And then so many people during COVID have got back to planting their own gardens and growing their own food, which I think is, again, it's that nice connection, it's that relationship with the land.
Yep, I think so. In this podcast, Joel Salatin was talking about if every family in the cities, or if every big family had 3 chickens, that would solve all our landfill methane gas issues. And it was really interesting. You have to listen to the podcast because he cites a study in Sweden where they actually did this and gave 2,000 families 3 chickens each. And it's enough. You can have chickens in your back garden and get all your protein, and it's fabulous.
it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks for coming on and talking to me today.
That's okay. I've really enjoyed it, actually. I know that we've got some really good resonances with each other around diet and health and living. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that as well. Just a final question for you. For people who kind of want to make a change but don't know how to, or are nervous about it, or feel like they can't give up their foods, have you got any sort of advice or comments or suggestions?
Okay, so what I would do is I would go into my cupboard and remove everything that's in a packet or a can, and remove, so that when I'm at home, I can't rush to a quick fix of, I'll mix up some noodles, or I'll, I don't know, whatever else is in a packet, or I'll make some scones, or, so if all that goes out of the kitchen and you've got a huge variety of animal-based food like eggs and cheese, and if you can eat dairy, and take a bit of thought around what I'm going to eat rather than rushing for the first thing that you can find in the cupboard.
Because I think we've all done that. I know I've had times where I feel like I could eat my arm off, and you're opening the cupboard and the fridge, like, is there any food in this house anywhere,
And also surround yourself with people and find people who are like-minded. That's another one. Find your tribe and get support. And there's always people there who will support you in making changes.
Gosh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that is something that I think is really key. Is people try and make changes on their own. They say, often stimulated by and expanding waistline, but also sometimes by health issues. And they're like, okay, I want to get healthy, I want to lose some weight, but they're trying to do it in a vacuum, and they're coming home and they say, okay, well, I'm going to try, it doesn't matter what diet or what style of eating they think, but I'm going to try this style of eating. But the rest of the family aren't interested, and they slog away for a few months on their own, and often will lose 6 or 8 kg, and then weight loss stalls, and then the family and the friends are still eating all the nice croissants.
It's a really real challenge. It really is.
It is.
I think having success. Sorry.
It's terribly hard. Yes.
Yeah. I think rewarding yourself with knowing that you've actually had some successes and that your body is starting to feel different is a big one. And also diarying, like I would start writing a diary about how I was feeling in my body after, I don't know, people who've been taking the Boost, our liver product, have noticed changes in 10 days. So diarying the changes.
Yeah, that's really big, isn't it?
Mm.
And I think even concentrating on doing some things that provide high quality nutrition. So even if you're not going to go out and make a massive change in your basic diet, either adding in eating organ meats or using, like your product, just for that extra nutritional boost, is a great way to actually start, and do something.
Yep, absolutely. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
To start putting in the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then noting the changes.
And then maybe eliminate the worst stuff slowly. Choose one thing and make a change with that. And
so we looked at packet foods and decided that we would remove everything in our diet that had more than 2 or 3 ingredients on the packet. So if you've got a packet of, I said noodles before, and you look at what's in it, it's just lines and lines and lines of what the product's made of. That's not food. Food is something that's got 1 or 2 ingredients in it, and that's it.
And we can pronounce the name.
I don't want to eat anything that's got an E in front of it, or canola oil, like seed oils and all that stuff's bad. It's bad for you.
Oh, that was something else we hadn't touched on that we talked about earlier.
We could talk for hours about it. So interesting.
Maybe we should do another one of these in a couple of weeks, and we can talk about a few other things. Really good. The other question, and I know you're not a doctor, and you're not I know you've got a background in exercise, but one of the things I think that we need to do is we need to get doctors on board with these changes. And I've been trying to do that for a long time, and it's a real struggle. I understand where doctors come from, because, I get classed as being in the wellness industry, and you're probably classed as being in the wellness industry, and anything that's not orthodox medicine is sort of in the wellness industry, and that can encompass virtually anything. And so I can see why they're cautious about it, but I really, really think we need doctors on board with this process for people. They need to be able to go to their doctor and get some proper blood tests and have them properly assessed and diagnosed early, like the trend towards metabolic syndrome. We can pick that up 10 or 15 years before people become diabetic, and we're just not doing it. Do you have any thoughts about how people can communicate with their GPs? I mean, I try and get people to share videos like this. I've got, Dr. Ben Bickman's coming on to talk to me, and Ken Berry's coming on, and and so I'm hoping that people will be able to share that information with their GPs. But do you have any thoughts about that?
All I know is there is a lot of support in New Zealand around this, and worldwide. We've got a women's carnivore tribe on Facebook, which is a great source of support. As far as functional practitioners in New Zealand, I've only met you. So I do think, we need these conversations, and we need to really spread from this point out and encourage everyone to question everything. Like, if you go to the doctor and your cholesterol's high and they say you need statins, well, then question that, because there's a lot of research now that that says that statins are just absolutely useless, and that if you change your diet, you'll get all the benefits that you need. So question everything and seek out us. There's a lot of people who are changing their eating habits, who are really passionate about health. They're not necessarily MDs, but we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom of the curve right now. We're the ones that are making the changes and having the benefits.
Yeah, and I think that's really good advice, to go and seek out some of these other groups and listen and have discussions and get information, and then go back so that you can talk to your GP about it. Because cholesterol is, I still get people who say, they bring me a pile of bloods, and they're obviously they're obviously pre-diabetic. They've got all these nutritional deficiencies. You can see that they've got some sort of inflammatory process going on. And because the only thing the lab has highlighted is total cholesterol is high, the GP says, well, we need to put you on a statin. And, it's frustrating.
It's a downward spiral. And I really believe our health system is the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff.
Yeah.
Whereas, if we stood at the top of the cliff and had the conversation around nutrition, because it's all about apart from genetics, it's all about what goes in our mouths. Let's all sit around at the top of the cliff and talk about how we can change things there.
And I think that having GPs involved is really, really important, because, I'm not a medical doctor. I can't diagnose disease. I can't talk about pharmaceuticals and medications and things like that. But I can help improve nutrition so that some of those symptoms and some of those diseases sort of reduce and you know, I mean, we can totally turn around type 2 diabetes for a start.
Absolutely.
Just diet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so we need this interrelationship between GPs and then people like us. And I think that conversation at the top of the cliff is really important.
Yeah, I think so too. And also making little changes and knowing that the little changes that I've made are beneficial to me. I'm feeling a little bit better in my body just by a small change, like removing processed food out of my diet. That's what I would encourage.
Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Oh, look, I could talk about this all day. It's kind of really interesting. But I've got about 10 things on my to-do list today, and I really need to sign off and get on with the rest of my day. And I think we must have been talking for at least an hour.
Yeah, we've been talking for ages. So, hey, thank you very much for your time and sharing your insights with us. And I hope lots of people will go and check you out and have a look at your website and try your products.
I hope so too. Yeah. We're a good little New Zealand company doing good stuff.
Absolutely. So I totally support New Zealand companies. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much too. I really appreciate the conversation.
All right. Me too. All right.
So yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.